Hey guys, it's still Vole here, and we've got some really good brand new creations. But today, let's take a blast from my past. Hey guys, welcome back to Accurate Path of Lego Guns here, where today we're going to be having a look at this bolt action pistol. We're going to be going back into the past where I created worse creations than this. This was certainly advanced for its time, and we wanted to put this to the test because it actually hasn't appeared at all. It's a very simple bolt action single shot shotgun pistol. Got a nice little 12 gauge put in there. I'm going to cock it. I'm going to fire it. Like that. It's very easy to load, it's very easy to fire. And it certainly is very easy and very lightweight. But before we get into any of the logistics of the gun, it's time to test this gun on the range test. Range testing this single shot pistol to see how far it goes. We'll load our first 12 gauge shell in the barrel. That was number one. We're going to load the second one. Yeah, barrel. That was number two. The final bullet. Now that there's a range test, let's see just how far this gun has gone. Whilst not being the most optimal gun for in terms of loading capacity and the advances of the gun did manage to get an average of around 6 meters, which is the furthest any of our guns have gone so far. Soon we'll be going into the accuracy test, but before we do so, allow me to talk through the logistics of this gun. This pistol was easy to create, and as I've said before, this was a pistol that was ever so slightly featured in one of my previous episodes. Now you may not think of this right now, but from the episode it came from, this was actually quite advanced. I changed the pistol grip to make it feel really nice and snug in my hand. This was my first pistol to ever contain a trigger guard. Like that. Now what we've done is we've curved the trigger guard itself so it looks like that. And we've helped house the trigger mechanism. The trigger itself is very simple. It is just one whole moving part. Now that we have separated the upper receiver from the lower receiver, we can now have a nice look at the lower of the gun. The trigger itself, again, as I've said, is one moving part. As you can see, it moves with ease. The top is just a bridge to connect the bottom with the top receiver on the gun. The actual barrel itself was very simple to create. It had a long set of flat base plates, which was one flat stud elevated from these base plates underneath, which creates this kind of barrel-y like groove. And what you do is you cock the bolt down the groove, then release it to release the bullet down the same groove. The groove obviously would stop at this bit, which is the end of the barrel, and that's because the bolt needn't travel any further, and therefore we can close the barrel back up. For the most part, this is an open barrel with a top receiver. and to be honest, it looks kind of cool. It was certainly revolutionary for the time it came from. Against my other pistols, it would be no contest that those pistols would be better than this gun, but it certainly did well for its time. The upper receiver had pretty much the same process in it, where this time we had a flat part with a flat base plate on bottom of it to create that groove, very similar to the one on the lower receiver. On the upper receiver you can also insert this Picatinny rail that will go on the top of the gun. Like that. It could also be a carry handle if you wanted to do so. The Picatinny rail itself was easy to create. We had some slopes and inverted slopes to create the bridge up to the main rail, and of course we had one set of slope here with virtually a 2x3 here as the other side of the Picatinny rail. Then we had a whole row of a single brick, but you can do it with separate bricks, and we then have the Picatinny rail itself, which will have this base plate, the main base plate, which is studded, and then have 2x2 flat base plates, or of course 2 sets of 1x1 flat base plates put together, which there is no instance of that here. You can still attach any attachments. I've shown you the attachments from the previous videos, so if you want to check them out, you can check them out, and the links will be in the description. The bolt was very simple to create. It was a 8x2, but to reinforce it we used 2 sets of Technic bricks with the holes in them, and we put the axles together to create this sturdy thing. And no matter how hard you try, that will not break. Even if the gun breaks itself by dropping it, you will not break this bolt at all. This is a very sturdy bolt. On the top we've also added flat base plates, and on the bottom we've also added studded base plates to make it the exact same size as the inner groove of the barrel. Also, to help feed the rubber bands onto the bolt, you would slide that nifty little cross-section axle into that hole, like so. To create the stop for the bolt, what you'd have is these stops, or these ends of the barrel. This is the one side and this is the other side. They're 2 different sides, and obviously what you would do is you take your stop and you put it right at the end of the gun, like so. You do the same for the other part, like that. Then what you do is you take your gun and you place them on your weapon, like so. Then what you do is you would take the bolt of the gun and put it in the barrel, then take a rubber band like this, wrap it around like that, and put it between that cross sector and the stop at the end of the gun. You flip it over to the other side and you do the exact same thing. I'm going to show you it quickly, and that's how you create it, and that's how you attach the bolt to the stop. Now if we put the upper receiver back on, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Dylan Vole 101 on how to assemble a bolt action single shot pistol. You're welcome. Now I'm just going to quickly show you how to load this gun. This gun is surprisingly easy to load. It will involve this. First you put the bullet into the magazine hatch, or the loading hatch. Then you pull the trigger. You pull the bolt out until you see that click, in which the bullet will be in the barrel. Then aim and then fire. The reason why I wanted to add this Picatinny rail onto the top of the gun, which was actually a really nice looking Picatinny rail if I'm to be honest, is because I used to have like a black scope that would go on top of the gun itself. Now, because it was made a long time ago, I wanted something a little bit more advanced. Therefore, I added my own Picatinny rail, which I could add any scope, any sight, and it still works just as good. Just in a little different way. You would actually have to find the attachment and attach it on there. And it can be attached in the same way as some of my other weapons if you check them out on my channel right now. Another thing that I will have to say is this gun will require a heck of maintenance just to keep it running, which is one of the bad things, and I'll talk about my personal opinion later on, but apart from that, it seems to work well when it's perfectly maintained. That was the main logistics of the gun. Now it's time to see what this gun does in the accuracy test. Now, without further ado, it's now time to test our small single shot pistol against those 3 targets to see how accurate it is. What a definition. Hit. Test number 2. Hit. Again with the third time lucky. Let's see if we get the same luck. Perfect. This gun, from those 3 targets, has perfect accuracy. Now it's time for my personal opinion of this gun. Now, I loved this gun when I first had it as a bolt action brick shooter. It was the only one that I had at the moment that did any sort of proper barreled brick shooting, and it certainly was more advanced than most of my other guns. It had a trigger guard, it had a proper grip, had a open bolt mechanism, and also it did not, I repeat, did not require rubber bands to load before brick shooting, which of course no other of my guns actually did brick shoot. So for that time it was pretty much advanced. In my opinion, I think it's past that because we've got some more awesome creations. You can see one right behind me right there, and I'm going to be very looking forward to showing you those creations. As in terms of this pistol, I think it's still quite nice, but I think it's past its time. If it was shown a while ago, it probably would have been more popular. Now, I have noticed that this gun does bear similarities to your particular weapons that you may like, i.e. your Glocks, but in a way they are vastly different. They have different features, different ways of firing, and on the whole, just completely different. And now I understand why it's completely easy to confuse this for a Glock. But it ain't a Glock, it's got a load of differences. It has all these crazy buckshot settings, which makes it feel quite nice as a shotgun. I wouldn't use it as a main rifle or anything like this, but as a shotgun, it certainly is a good use. And this action for a shotgun is the one I use. Now, I have got some other guns there, and in my opinion, this is more of an average gun. It's not the best gun I've had on my channel, but to be honest, it's not the worst. And we got some better guns coming on here, so stick around and watch them. But one advanced thing about this gun is it does have a little bit of recoil. Not much, but you can notice it. So we're just going to load it and we're going to show you the recoil. Gun being fired to show you the recoil. You may notice a slight recoil in the gun. It may not be too major, but it is there, and it certainly is evident. And that was certainly the best part of the pistol. The pistol also shoots quite well, reasonably reliable. However, the gun can fail. There can sometimes, and there sometimes will be, a massive failure of this gun. Catastrophic when that happens, but most of the time it works fairly well and it is fairly tactical. Just a quick overall dimension on the gun. Talking on the relativity of 1x1 blocks, the gun is 26 blocks long with a height of 13 2/3 blocks and 4 blocks wide. The barrel itself is 5 1/3 blocks tall with an overall length of 17 blocks. The actual Picatinny rail here wasn't taken into consideration for the length at all. Instead, we took it as its own component. So the dimensions of this Picatinny rail is 2 1/3 blocks by 16 blocks. So before we finish, here we are with a quick precision test. So we'll pause. Do this. Test 1. Hit. Test number 2. Pass. Final test. Don't let us down. Pass. Which means this gun scored 6 on the range, 15 on the accuracy, and 15 on the precision test. Whilst it may not be the most advanced gun, it certainly is a brilliant gun in terms of its firepower and consistency.
Feel me like a Hellcat.